Whoa, what a fascinating episode of Kino no Tabi. A traveling country. A very unique episode. I guess when you have a series that's seinen, but also has episodic stories, you get stuff quite like this. This is why in some cases I do love episodic series, because there's a lot of life lessons, and Kino no Tabi clearly has that. It has a lot of life lessons and ways to really look at things, because there's a lot of philosophical meaning, and that's what this episode is about. And I like how the contrast of this episode is kind of very similar to the last episode with the Colosseum. It kind of goes against it, basically. In the last episode, Kino was forced into a gladiator situation where she had to fight, thanks to the country's, social, norms and laws. Well, Kino didn't want to do that, but she was forced to, basically. But in this case, Kino goes out of her way to help out. She goes out of her way to help out a country, which I find very cool. I really like the way this episode did that, but also how the anime is handling this, kind of showcasing a contrast between the previous episode and the episode currently ongoing. That's kind of how the last episode was, with the Colosseum and all that. The episode before that, we had a country that had a lot of bad rep and all. Apparently, there was a law to where you can, kill anyone, and, it wasn't, against the law. Basically, everybody thought that would be a very bad country. Kino thought it would be a bad country. She went in, it's a very good country. The Colosseum country, basically, everybody thought it was a paradise, but in reality, it wasn't, and there was a contrast between those two themes. And now, with this episode, it's also a contrast to the previous episode. And I like how this series is handling that. At the very least, the way the studio is handling Kino no Tabi and telling these certain stories to give us a little bit more insight to what Kino's character is about and what she would do when she enters into different countries. So anyways, getting right into it, the traveling country. This country that is always on the move. I find it very fascinating because it's just such a unique setting. I don't know, just something about it is very unique, and you don't really think about something like that. And I mean, when you think about it, this series is a traveling show. It's where Kino goes on a journey and she's traveling constantly. She's on an adventure. She never stays in a country for more than 3 days. Now, she did break this rule in the episode, but in reality, though, she doesn't want to stay in a country for too long. She always wants to be on the road and traveling and seeing new things. And we will probably eventually get insight to why she does this, but overall, though, for now, when she actually travels, we get to see this journey with her. We get to see what she sees and what she overcomes and how she changes as a person. And the traveling country, they were kind of like a message to what Kino does, but at a grander scale. See, Kino, with her traveling, she is possibly always leaving marks. As a traveler, she could possibly just leave little indentions in the ground of, what the motorrad leaves, and she can be on her way, and it's not really that big, nobody even knows she was there. Or, in some cases, when she is in a country, she could possibly change the country in a very different way, which in turn leaves a very long mark, or a scar, so to say, on the country. For instance, if we look at the previous episode with the Colosseum, what Kino did when she took down the royalty, she left a scar on that country. The country is permanently changed. It will never go back to what it was. It will be permanently changed from now on. And so when Kino left that, she left this scar that will never disappear. Everybody from that country will remember her. It will always be like that. They will forever remember what she did, the mark she left behind. And so even though she's always traveling, she never has a place to really sit down and call home, and as a foundation for where she could finally just rest, she's still leaving, marks behind, and people will always remember her. And so, when you look at the traveling, country, they are on a greater scale than what Kino does. Kino may change a country, but what the traveling country does is they completely just change everything in their wake. They change the environment, the landscape. They even go through countries in ruined homes, buildings, farmland, all of that to be able to go through a country. So basically in this way, like I said, this was a message to what Kino does. But this, like I said, was at a bigger scale. So let's talk about the country in general. So the traveling country, the way it's able to move and all that, it always has to continuously move. Apparently, from what was explained is that what powers it, it'll heat up into like a level of like a nuclear meltdown, basically. And so that is why the the country always needs to be moving. It cannot stop for long periods of time. And so it makes a lot of sense. I mean, when you have a country designed like that, it makes a lot of sense. However, what's very fascinating about this country is that the technology, for instance, how this country is built, how it thrives. I mean, number one, we see, like, missiles come in and strike at, the moving country, and it doesn't even do anything. It doesn't even affect it whatsoever, which is very strange. It makes you wonder what type of technology is out there for the series, the world building, for this country to be so advanced. I mean, a laser, for instance. A laser was shot out of it and just filleted this big wall that was blocking entrance into a country. Now, granted, this country is very greedy, according to Kino, which I'll get into, but basically, though, for them to have that type of technology, it makes me wonder what is exactly out there, because there's just so many countries we have seen that have so many different ways in the ways their technology is used. I mean, their layers of society and all that, just so much different. I mean, when we go to the Colosseum, country, to the country before that, and then now this, there's just so many very distinct, countries. And it makes you wonder, what else is out there? Is there like some form of sci-fi country or whatever with like flying cars or something? I'm very curious about that, because that's the question I have after watching this episode. Anyways, let's talk about what Kino left behind when she, left this country. She left behind a mark, and this mark is a mark of happiness. The children that will be, doing some form of, drawing on the side of the moving, city or country, they will probably be drawing Kino, which will in turn make it to where she will live on permanently in everybody's mind. She will always be there. Nobody will ever forget her. She left a mark behind, and I like that. I really like seeing that, and I like how Kino got very embarrassed and she blushed in a way. It's kind of upsetting that it was blocked through the goggles and stuff, but it was very nice to see that she, as a character, she's willing to help out countries, and it doesn't really bother her to leave behind a mark on society, even though she is a traveler. She's fine with that. So let's talk about the country, the one that, got plowed through when it comes to, the moving fortress and stuff. So the country, apparently, according to Kino, they were a very greedy country. They were greedy, but also when Kino tried to go into the country, they wanted her woodsman. Now, I'm going to assume what led to these events, why Kino was a part of the traveling country, why she got in there in the first place, was probably because she tried to travel through that wall country, and when she tried to, they're like, nope, you got to give your woodsman and all that, you got to give it up and all that, you can't travel through. They were very greedy, and so she decided to turn around because it was unacceptable. She wasn't going to give anything up, so she turned around. Eventually she found this moving fortress. Basically, she got in it, and then she plowed through the country. So she probably was very aware of what was happening. She was probably very aware of what they were going to do, but she just sat back and let it happen because she actually wanted to be able to get through there and continue on with her way, her travel. So that's probably why she broke her 3-day rule, was to be able to do that in the first place. Anyways, though, I do say, great episode overall. Third episode definitely had a very good message, great theme and all that to it, and I just really love this series. I think everybody can agree with me that this is definitely one of the highlights of Fall of Anime 2017, one of the best series, and it's definitely a really good series to watch on a Friday, especially if you watch Girls Last Tour as well on Friday. It's just a very good series. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below, how you felt about this episode. If you enjoyed my content, please subscribe. If you like my video, please leave a like, and if you want to support me for I can continue to focus on YouTube, please go in the description and support me on Patreon. It helps me out a lot, especially with how YouTube has been when it comes to, them giving yellow tags on all the videos and demonetizing it instantly. So I really do appreciate if you guys support me on Patreon. So I love you guys. Have a wonderful day or not wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.